From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm John Delano. 40,000 miles of highway, more than 25,000 bridges. Those are all under the domain of PennDOT, the state's transportation department. And in some ways, the job is tougher than ever. Pennsylvania is dealing with more flooding and landslides, all while workers try to keep up the roads that drivers use every day. Our first guest today is in charge of much of our section of the state. Our guest today is Cheryl Moon Sirianni. She is the director of PennDOT District 11, responsible for Allegheny, Beaver, and Lawrence counties. And we're also joined by Joe Smido, editorial writer for the Post-Gazette. Cheryl, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
It's summertime, and so naturally, everywhere we turn, we see construction. Just in general, how is the construction season going in this region?
Well, we like seeing cones, John. That means we're making progress and making improvements. We have some ebbs and flows, not to make a joke there or anything, but the flooding has caused some delays in some of our projects. But we've had a lot of sunny days, and we are pretty much on schedule in most of the areas.
You know, the flooding has been major in this area, and the landslides. Yeah. I saw one report 90 landslides, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, we actually have about 117 landslides right now that are active that we're watching just in the Allegheny, Beaver, Lawrence County areas.
And when you say you're watching, what does that mean?
Well, we can't fix them all. We don't have enough money to fix them all. It takes a lot of time, so we have to monitor a lot of them while we're working on design. Some of them we don't have the money to fix in the near future, so we're making sure they don't get any worse, making sure the roads are safe.
You do prioritize. I think I saw a report, Reese Run up in the Ross Township area. That's a priority for you? Yeah,
Reese Run's obviously a priority because there's a lot of traffic. That's actually, though, a private property owner actually caused that slide, and we have to work right now with the property owner on some legal issues before we can even go clean up the road on that one.
Have you had to scale back your road construction or reconstruction projects because of all the landslides?
Well, yes, we have, because we only budget about $6 million a year per landslides, and we're over $20 million is being spent this year. So doing the math, there's about $14–15 million of road projects or bridge projects that aren't being done because it's being focused on the landslides.
Does that have an impact on the safety and the quality for those of us who are driving?
Well, yeah, obviously, yes. I don't want to say safety. We make sure all of our roads are safe. But as far as quality, some of the roads that are off cycle being paved because we can't get to them because of the funding concerns.
Let me ask you a question that I think I get from just a lot of folks, which is, why don't you have enough money to do all that you need to do? Because we're paying the most massive gasoline tax in the country, and that money was supposed to be, although we know part of it's dedicated for public transportation, but a lot of it was supposed to be used to repair our roads and bridges. What's going on here? Is it just more expensive than we thought?
There's a lot of needs, as you mentioned. I mean, just in our district alone, we have 1,800 bridges we have to manage, 2,500 miles of roadway. That's just state highways. So then the county and the city and the locals own a lot of roadways. There's a lot of infrastructure in the Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania, and it costs a lot of money to make the repairs. The cycles we're on some of our back roads, we're on like a 35-year cycle to pave those roads because of the financial crisis that looms above us all the time.
I mean, rural areas need attention too. I mean, a one-lane road in a small town could be just as important as a major highway in an urban area. So how do you balance those things?
It is very difficult. Now, we do use a lot of our state funds and our maintenance forces to repair some of those rural roads. It costs a little bit less to do that when we use those type of contracts rather than the federal aid projects that obviously cost a little bit more, but it is very difficult. In our region, we have a huge urban network of roads with a lot of traffic on it, so getting to some of the rural roads is difficult to prioritize and to fund.
Let me ask you about the relationship with the Turnpike Commission. You're not the Turnpike Commission.
No.
But the secretary, PennDOT secretary, is on that board.
Yes.
So there is a relationship, and the Turnpike has to provide what is it, $400+ million?
$450 million, yeah.
$450 million out of tolls to PennDOT. But that's going to come to an end.
Well, that goes to the transit agencies, so that doesn't go towards our roads and bridges. So the $450 million from the Turnpike directly goes to the transit agencies, not used on any of our roads. So
when that comes to an end,
right,
which is in what, 2021, 22,
yes,
somewhere fairly soon, that's going to have an impact on your monies because those other monies are going to be needed for public transit.
And there was a couple studies done. I don't know if you're aware of the Southwest Mobility study that was done between the Pennsylvania Turnpike and Port Authority with a little bit of input, obviously, from PennDOT to try to figure out the ways to fill those gaps, you know, putting a little bit more of the, I don't want to say onus, but putting a little bit more of the responsibility maybe on the users of the transit systems, asking some of the municipalities to come up with maybe taxes they can, you know, create on their own to fund some of the transit rather than relying on the motor license tax to fund it.
Well, a certain amount of PennDOT money every year goes to the state police. Why is that?
That's a question you'll have to ask folks way above me. I handle the money that comes to me, and I try to do a good job of that. But that's been a decision made, you know, years ago because the state police are very valuable to PennDOT. I mean, they manage or monitor our roads and then, you know, ensure the safety of the folks traveling in the roads. So the state police definitely provide a good service to us. How the money is divided up is definitely something that the legislator handles.
Could you use more money from Washington?
We can always use more money from Washington. And actually, when the Act 89 bill was passed, I think that you were referring to earlier.
The gas tax bill.
Back in 2013, that was basically done to fund the state roads. I don't want to say state, like state-owned roads in some of the rural areas and the non-interstate highways, hoping, of course, that the federal legislators in Congress would pass a bill to help fund the interstates. That has not happened. So now we are in a very serious issue with our interstates where we have a backlog across the state in the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars each year. So what we're having to do now is possibly take money from the other roads that you were just mentioning, Joe, and transfer to the interstates, because if our interstates aren't up in tip-top shape, you know, it affects commerce and travel and you know, anybody that's visiting our area or anything like that.
Why aren't there more public-private partnerships to maintain roads, bridges, tunnels, and so forth?
Why aren't there more? We actually just passed the legislation a couple years ago to even allow private-public partnerships. But there has to be a gain for the private person that's owning this, so they have to make some type of money off of it. They're just not going to build a road just to be nice. So tolling is very difficult. It has a really huge impact. You know, we've looked at, you know, what do you do if you toll an interstate? Well, what's going to happen is a lot of the traffic's going to go on some of these other roads that are already, you know, congested to begin with. So
isn't that what has happened to Interstate 80? As the turnpike rates have gone up and up and up and up and up and never stop, more and more of the truckers are using Interstate 80 to cross Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I don't know the statistics, John, to be honest with you. I do know there's a whole lot of warehouses and a lot of trucking industry that is happening on the other side of the state, so I think they're using both the turnpike and I-80 to do that. But talking about if you toll like an interstate around the city, if you would happen to toll 79, for instance, you know, Route 50 would be overloaded with more cars, and you know, so you have to really, it's a real balancing act. So P3s, you know, they have to have a benefit for the private partner in that.
I know that coming back to the method of taxing for highway use, the notion that users should be paying, not all taxpayers in general. Part of the problem, I mean, the notion of the gasoline tax is that those who are buying gasoline for their cars are actually driving cars on the highways, and they're the ones who should be paying rather than through other mechanisms. But I've heard this proposal, and I'm curious where it is. I've heard this proposal that we would charge people a tax based on the number of miles they drive. Because now with the new technology, it's very easy to determine how many miles you drive your car a year. So if you drove your car 5,000 miles a year, you would pay less than someone who drove 15,000. Is this something that PennDOT is looking at?
Actually, they are. They're studying that. They're studying there's different methodologies to that. So they actually have a study right now going on where they're looking for volunteers out in the eastern part of the state to see, it's called a mileage-based user fee is what that's called. So,
mileage-based user fee.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking at. But there's a lot of concerns with that. Folks like their privacy. And that would, you know, tracking the mileage that they went, tracking, you know, they're worried they'd be tracking where they go, what they do. So there's a lot of things that have to be worked out with that.
Yeah.
And that's what the study will hopefully come out of the study. But because you're right, electric cars are more fuel efficient vehicles. You know, the money we're getting from the gas.
Right, that's going to drop as we go to.
Well, it already is.
Yeah.
It's already dropped in this about $150 million across the state. Our transportation budget is down just due to fuel efficiency.
Right. We only have 2 minutes left, so let me just ask you. If you had your druthers and you had plenty of money, what is it that you would make priority for work here in southwestern Pennsylvania, in the counties in which you're responsible? Where do you see the greatest need right now?
Well, we actually just talked about that yesterday. I think some of our greatest needs are some of the interstate interchanges that haven't been touched in years. The Carnegie Green Tree interchanges definitely need upgraded. We did a study on the
Agreed.
I know. Those were built in the 60s, and they're all out of date. We're looking to do some improvements there where the Southern Beltway is at Bridgeville. We're going to have a 3-lane to 2-lane to 3-lane area, so we need to put a 3-lane there in the middle so we don't have a bottleneck. 79 at 910 is an area that backs up every night. Anybody that lives in the North Hills knows that. There's been a lot of growth. And on the Parkway East, we did a study a few years back where we have a lot of improvements that we could do out that way because those interchanges are just as outdated. So if I had my dream, I'd be working on some of these interchanges that haven't been touched in 50 years. That's
your dream.
Right.
Is it reality? Can it happen? Is it happening?
We are starting design on a couple of the Parkway West interchanges. We're trying to start design on those other 2 projects on 79 they talked about, but they're not funded for construction yet. And the reason why is when we're replacing a bridge like Commercial Street Bridge outside Squirrel Hill Tunnel in a couple years, that's $120 million. So.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for coming in. It's always great to have you on the show. You always give us good information. We really appreciate you being with us.
Thank you again. Have a nice day.
We're not through talking about transportation. There are all sorts of people thinking about and planning about the future of how we get around. You will meet 2 of the experts in the field when the KDPG Sunday edition continues. Stick with us.